grasshopper season, and we'd have hundreds and hundreds of grasshoppers in our house just flying everywhere, laying on the walls, and people would eat those grasshoppers. They'd take off their wings and then cook them in oil and salt them and then eat them. They were like a dessert. So it was lots of grasshoppers there. In Uganda, they had the best pineapple I've ever tasted. I don't like pineapple here anymore. I'm spoiled. Last week, I had the first pineapple that I've said, I actually enjoyed this pineapple. They have the little miniature bananas that are like this size. They're really good. And then some other bigger bananas. They have really, really good mango in Uganda as well. Oh. People will shake your hands and they'll hold your hand while they're talking to you the whole time. So you'll shake someone's hand and they'll just hold it there for 10, 15, 20 seconds. And you just, I was like, what's going on here? And it took a while to get used to that. But then it was fine. Normal weather is hot, really hot. It didn't rain too much, but you could tell when it was raining. It just started getting really windy. Once you felt the wind, you knew you had about 5 minutes until it started just pouring. And usually it would pour really hard for about 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes. I don't think I ever saw it rain for more than an hour straight. And it'd be really, really torrential rain pour, and then it'd just disappear. There's a great justice system there. It's called the mob justice. And so that keeps major crime down, at least from what I've seen, just because if the public doesn't like what you do, then they'll take matters into their own hands instead of waiting for policemen or government officials to punish people. If you get caught stealing, they usually will not treat you kindly. For instance, on Mother's Day, I had been calling and talking to my parents, and we just saw a guy who walked across the street naked and kind of beaten up, and the bishop said, oh, he looks like he just got caught stealing. So they would strip him and beat him and then send him on their way. So because of punishments like that, I feel like petty crimes, people didn't do them often if they thought they were going to get caught. I know it happened because it happened to me. I had a couple things stolen, and I know other missionaries got stuff stolen. But it was pretty safe as far as getting attacked. There was monkeys in the trees, so you could feed monkeys and hang out with the monkeys. Hyenas. If you went to the northern parts of Uganda, there were some game reserves there, and some animals would wander off, and so you could, if you're lucky, you could see a giraffe or maybe an elephant or something like that. I spent a lot of time in the capital city, so I didn't see as much as that, but there's a lot of insects, lots and lots of mosquitoes. Uganda is broken up into a lot of different tribes, and each tribe has a king of their tribe. Those kings are more just figureheads. They don't have a lot. I mean, there's a president of the country, and he has his ruling body, so the kings don't have actual say in legislation and stuff like that, but they're very respected, and so the president will respect them, and they could get access to the president if they wanted to. If they needed to tell him something or talk to him, they're well respected and taking care of people, although they don't have real political power for the whole country. In their domain, the president kind of gives them way to do what they want. I'm not trying to sound racist, but being white in a way made us a target, but also because we were foreigners, the general public would look out for us because they'd either assume we didn't know what we were doing, or just that we're not aware of customs. And so not that we'd break customs, but just there's general respect for foreigners. I personally didn't get targeted a lot by getting jumped or attacked, or no knives were pulled on me. There was always those random people who just really did not like white people. They always associated white people with Americans, even though there was some white people. There was a South African, some other people that weren't American, but it was always associated white people with Americans. So sometimes we'd just be walking around, people would yell, "Go back to America, we don't want you here," and then they'd threaten us, but we knew they didn't really. Maybe they meant it, but they weren't going to do anything because there was too many people around who were respectful of us that they couldn't have got away with it. I feel like petty crimes are pretty common, maybe like theft and stuff like that. There was several riots while I was there. There was a presidential election for President Museveni, and some people were not excited about him potentially being the president for another term, and so there was a lot of rioting. The police usually took care of that pretty quickly. They just tear gas everybody. And Lira, one of the northern villages of Uganda, there was a strong anti-American sentiment due to some previous pastors from America that had come and tarnished the American name according to those people. So it got a little sketch there. I had a Kenyan companion who got hit in the face because he was walking with me because I was American. People would yell stuff at us and threaten us and shove us around, but it wasn't like we never got fully assaulted, except for that one time where my companion got hit, and the guy was completely drunk out of his mind, so he probably wouldn't have done it in a normal state of mind. In Uganda, they have 3 staples. They have rice, then something called posho, which is corn ground up into a flour, and then you boil water and you slowly add it, kind of like a cream of wheat, but until it solidifies into something that looks like mashed potatoes but tastes nothing like it. It's just a thick white blob of bland and tasteless stuff that it's very filling and it's really cheap to make. So that's one of their staples. But they'll add sauces to it to make it flavorful. And then the third main staple is matoke, which is giant green bananas that they boil and mash and make them kind of into like a paste. Not really a paste. It's thicker than that. So it's not like a spread for bread, but it's just mashed potatoes, but made out of bananas, I guess you could say. That's the best way to describe it. You could go and buy a plate of rice and beans for 75 cents to $1, depending on how much prices had inflated that day or that week or that year. Chips and beef, or rice and beef, or rice and chicken, and that would be like $2 a plate. And they had something called chapatis and Rolex. Chapatis kind of like a tortilla. They mix flour and salt and some oil, and then they fry it in just on a burner or something like that, on like metal plate that's over coals. And then we would use that as a tortilla. So if we'd make beef stew or something, or if we'd make hamburger meat, we'd eat it with that, just kind of like a burrito or something. And then they had something called Rolex, where they'd fry eggs into an omelet, and then they'd put it on top of the chapati, and then they rolled up like a breakfast burrito, and they'd put eggs and cabbage, onions, tomatoes, green peppers, stuff like that. Grasshopper, there's cow intestines, stuff like that. They ate a lot of fish, and they'll just dry it out in the sun, and then they'll feed it to you, or they'll smoke it or fry it. I don't like fish very much. It makes me sick to my stomach, so I didn't like the fish, and I tried to avoid it, but if they gave it to me, I'd usually eat it. So for culture, when people ask you to eat food, you should eat it. They'll usually get offended if you don't eat all of it, although they understand more so for foreigners that maybe you're not used to their food, or you can't eat as much as they expect you to. I made a promise, whatever someone puts in front of me, I'm going to eat it. And then if I have something that I know makes me sick, I'll let them know, hey, I can't eat this because it makes me sick. But typically you always eat whatever they give you. They're very, very familial. They'll drop almost anything to go. People will drop anything to go visit their family. If their family's sick, if their family needs help, whatever it is, people will visit their family, and they love their family a lot. Something that was kind of a joke is if you were teaching someone, you couldn't find them, you'd say, oh, they probably went to the village. Just because people would randomly disappear and then come back through. Because, oh, I was in the village visiting my family. They'd give no warning. It's just, oh, I was in the village, or I went to the village. Or someone would disappear, like, hey, where's this person? Oh, he went to the village. When's he coming back? I don't know. Another joke that missionaries would have is, oh yeah, I'm coming in 5 minutes, because people would say that you'd make an appointment with someone for 3 o'clock, and you'd call them at 2:50, and they are you coming? Like, oh yeah, I'll be there in 5 minutes. And you call them at 3:15. It's like, oh yeah, I'll be there in 10 minutes. Like, but 30 minutes ago you said you'd be here in 5 minutes. Like, oh yeah, I'm coming. And then you call them, and then you just after 30 minutes they're not there. He's like, okay, I'm giving up. And then you call them, oh sorry, I was coming and then I stopped coming. I was just like, are you kidding me? There's so much culture there. It's great. I love it so much. So you really learn to love the people and everything that they do. And